Hello, and welcome to the Elementary Moment. My name is Aaron Spear.
And I'm fucking Brad Hathcock. Aaron Spears can't stand it today.
Brad is being extremely Brad today.
He
How are you,
reluctantly
sir?
chose to podcast today. Reluctantly is a
Well, I picked
nice,
the day
nice.
earlier in the week, but
And
I
then you were
didn't.
gonna bail to
No, I
watch a
wasn't.
movie and to watch a hockey game. What's
You
more
can't blame me.
important to you, hockey or this podcast?
Well, hockey now.
Fair.
So it'll be my 41st straight game I've watched of the Panthers playing. I'm now committed to just watching every game.
Hey, it's easier for you. Like
Way
you're
easier.
the games come on so early for you. Like that's
Oh, it's so nice.
so nice, dude.
Like the
I
ones that like
wish.
when they play out here at 7 o'clock, and I'm like, oh come on, I gotta get to bed. I get tired early. I'm an old
No.
person.
So am I, but it doesn't matter. You just
uh,
have to go for it.
yeah. I before we started recording, I was watching the Holdovers with Paul Giamatti, and it was like it's like the most charming fucking movie I've ever seen. It was like really sweet, and now that I've seen it, I'm like, good for him that he got that award. Good for him.
Paul Giamatti's great, dude.
He's
I mean,
fantastic.
it's I didn't see that movie yet, but it's not even that movie, dude. It's like his body of work has always been pretty good. He was in this show called Billions on Showtime and
Sure.
was fantastic in it. Gets a little wonky, obviously, after a couple seasons, just like any other fucking show you watch. But um, I mean, such a good show. Trying to think. I know he was in that stupid movie with Frankie Muniz, but I mean, he's been in so much other stuff and that he's so good in. Like he deserves it.
Uh, you can't forget him in Planet of the Apes. He was like the best part of that movie. He was like this like super sketchy orangutan weirdo, and
Oh,
it was
right,
really
right, right,
good.
right, right. Was that the one with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
That
God,
movie's that's like one
that
of the
dog shit.
that's a
It's
bad
terrible.
movie. I love every Planet of the Apes movie, and I kind of still like that one a little bit. But man, is that a does that one try to do something and fail completely at it?
I didn't completely hate it. I think at the time it's fine. It's Mark Wahlberg. It's like what you're gonna get out of Mark Wahlberg is generally fine. Unless you
I
talk about like the fighter was real good, but was that carried by Christian Bale? Probably.
uh um the porno movie. God, why am I drawing a blank on it? But
That one I've never actually seen.
I'm gonna
But I
look it
know what
up
you're
or I'll go
talking
crazy.
about. Yeah, that one I
Well,
haven't seen. But
we
I mean,
provide a
Shooter
little.
was really good. Shooter was really good. I enjoyed that one
I
quite a bit.
I hate those
I
kinds
even
of
liked
movies, and I even like that.
I actually liked Invincible, believe it or not.
Keep going, keep going. I'm gonna pull
I
it up because I
mean,
have to go.
Ted.
Boogie
I mean,
Nights.
Ted. Yeah, that's it. Ted one
Yeah.
and two, and then a little known movie that he was in called Fear. That was really good.
Let's see if I've seen Fear. No, I
That
haven't seen
was
Fear.
late '90s, maybe early 2000s.
Okay, let's
Um,
just do it. Let's just go. I'm got it up now. Let's just do it. He was in Three Kings. Great movie. He was in Rockstar. I love Rockstar. That movie's so stupid. Have you seen
Lone
Rockstar?
Survivor. Oh, yeah, I love that
I
movie. I
love
used
that
to listen to
movie.
the soundtrack all the time.
Dude, that movie came on TV. It was like Goodfellas. I was like, I gotta watch it all the way through now. I've already started it.
It's
The
it's
Perfect
it's good.
Storm. He's good in The Perfect Storm. That's a great movie.
That's a
That's a
weird
great
one
book.
because people either liked it or hated it.
Oh,
I
it's
actually don't like
so
that movie, but
it's pretty cheesy, but the book is incredible. Like the book is spectacular.
John C. Riley was in that too, like low key
Yeah,
before
and that
anyone really knew who he was.
the guy who played the guard in The Dark Knight that gets killed at the beginning by the Joker is in that movie too. Um,
Mm.
he was in The Italian Job. Who can forget that? The
Which is
Departed.
all right.
he gets
Departed
the
was good, but
he has like the
that
most ridiculous part of that
but
movie.
see, there's such a huge cast for The Departed. Like Jack Nicholson was so good in that. Matt Damon was so good in that. Leonardo DiCaprio, like, are they just dragging this nutsack along, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Because
He did
he's fine, but he's in some great movies. But are they great because of him?
no, they're not. Uh, uh Pain and Gain, uh,
Yes,
Two
I got that
Guns.
movie. I got that movie for free for buying protein powder when I worked at GNC when
Of
that movie came
course.
out. It's so
Two
stupid.
Guns. Two Guns was fine. That was one with Denzel. Um,
Pain
oh
and Gain
God,
is where I knew I hated Anthony Mackie. Like, straight up, I knew I hated him. Still hate him to this day. He's terrible.
I didn't hate him until you hated him, and now I can't stand him either. You've like ruined my perception of him. I'm like, oh, he's not really that great of an actor.
He's not, but I mean, he was fine in Twisted Metal, I guess. But you're not looking for good acting in Twisted Metal.
Absolutely not. We have the Transformers movies he was in. Couldn't. Yeah.
Garbage,
Um,
pure poop.
Arthur the King. He's gonna be in Arthur the King this year,
Oh God,
which is
sounds awful.
let's see. Oh my God. Oh, this can't be real. It's based on a 2016 nonfiction book, Arthur, the dog who crossed the jungle to find a home. In the
Oh
film, the
God,
captain of an adventure racing team befriends a wounded stray dog named Arthur, who
please
accompanies the
stop
team.
reading.
Okay.
Please just stop reading.
This is crazy.
We're gonna finish this off with he did the crappening, so I think we can officially move on.
The dog was on a 435-mile journey. Amazing. Yeah, so all that to be said, all said, Paul Giamatti is really good in that movie, and I can't wait for you to watch it. I probably would have I bet that movie would have made my top 15. It would have taken the one of the spots. Pretty
Yeah,
good.
it just hit Peacock. I mean, again, I'm a huge Paul Giamatti fan, so I think I'll like it. I honestly don't even know what it is. Like, I never saw a
I
trailer for it or
Me
anything. It
neither.
just like popped up out of nowhere. Dude, I'll say this about 2023, the end of the year, so many movies popped up, like completely randomly. Like they just out of nowhere came out.
I hate when they do that because they release good movies on Christmas, and I'm like, I don't want to go see good movies on Christmas. But yeah, this movie, I didn't know what it was either, and yeah, I didn't. It wasn't what I expected it to be, but it was good. It's a anyway. Oh, you want to talk about the news? You
Oh
want to
boy.
talk about the news?
Aaron calls these a newsy.
A
A
newsy episode.
newsy.
Well, I said the year was going to be terrible, and this is why, because the politics in this country are just fucking
Oh,
broken.
they're gonna be bonkers this year.
Oh,
Election
it's
year.
so bad. I guess we could start with. Well, I'll just throw you some stuff, and you can I don't know, rant about it. I guess. Hunter Biden was in Congress yesterday, and he testified, and it was a shit show. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, brought more pictures of him like naked doing crack and stuff. And I think somebody even asked him, "This is how crazy it is." I
That's the
think somebody
best
in the
thing to fucking happen to Congress.
it's I kind of like it,
showing,
even though I don't
showing
like
Hunter
her.
Biden's dick pics out in the public.
Yeah,
It's
I think
great.
one of the Congress people actually asked him like, "What's your favorite like type of heroin or something?"
Yeah, you said that. She was like, "Oh, what's your favorite like brand of crack to smoke?" I actually think that was someone in the media that said that.
Oh, even better.
The picture I saw when I was like flipping through, because quite frankly, you don't really need to read more than a headline for that piece of news. But I think it looked like he was in almost like a media scrum at the end.
Hmm.
And that's when he was asked. But the fact of the matter is, he walked out on Marjorie Taylor Greene when she started talking. So
It was funny. You see so many pictures of him, and like he's always in like it's always bad. If you see a picture of him, it's always bad. And
well,
you
yeah,
never
he's
hear,
on
but
crack.
you never hear the guy talk. He sounds exactly like his dad. Like like exactly. It's pretty crazy.
At least he has an excuse. Joe Biden's just kind of dead. Like he's
Wow.
just out there, kind of like being a
Do you,
puppet.
do you want
But
to talk about how
Hunter Biden's on crack,
he's got the lowest approval rating of any president in the modern polling era? That's pretty
including Donald
amazing,
Trump,
including him. Yeah.
And he was pretty bad. Like they had a pretty low rating for him, and Joe Biden's still polling lower. I told you my Twitter for you feed is just full of like Gen Z influencers going, we're definitely going to have Joe Biden back in office. Gen Z is going to put him in office. And I know for a fact at this point, because I don't follow any of these people, that the for you section is basically to hate fuck you, like with stuff
Yep.
that you don't actually want to see, so that you'll interact with it. And it looks like
Well,
it's also the default. It's also the default stream when you log into Twitter, and apparently you can still call it Twitter because it seems like they're still using the Twitter domain.
yeah.
So while they branded it X, they're still using the Twitter domain, so you can call it Twitter. So when you're on Twitter, it appears that when you open it up, it goes right to that for you section, which is just shit that you're gonna hate. Plain and simple. It's just shit you're gonna hate.
Well, some of them are doing it on purpose because you get monetized for engagement now on X. They'll send you a paycheck. So people will go on there and bait people like you with like the stupidest shit possible on both sides. They'll say like just crazy shit and it's just getting them like
Oh, I don't
money.
interact with those clowns. I
I don't
don't
know how it
interact with
works. You
them.
might not have to interact with them for them to get monetized. I don't know how. That's why I don't know how it works. Nobody does.
I don't know.
So
It's up there
it's a fucking psyop.
because oh, of course, everything's a psyop. That shit just
Yeah.
pops up on my feed. Like I'm not talking about it, whatever. I mean, so you and I have been talking about ice baths and saunas and shit, right? So like now my feed through like Facebook, Instagram, that is all I see is ads for the same 3 companies that make fucking ice pods and saunas. That is all I fucking see. Okay. But when I log into Twitter, I see very progressive liberal bullshit that I don't want to fucking see. Like far left shit. If you're like a progressive, but you're not like a psychopath, fine. But I see like far left fucking communist shit.
Yeah, it's kind of by design. It's like they're trying to push shit onto your app. I think that's interesting that the sauna thing came up for you because I did not make you look up a sauna at all. Like, I was doing it on my own phone, but
I wasn't looking them up. They come through my feed like constantly, and
yeah,
like I don't know if it's because I listen to Joe Rogan and he's always talking about like ice baths and saunas and shit like that. I don't know, but it definitely keeps coming through my feed for whatever reason. And now, obviously, for the record, you just bought a sauna that came with a free ice bath. That's the deal. You got to do the deal. Okay, if you don't do the deal, you waste your fucking money.
mm-hmm.
But I've been taking cold showers, which is terrible. It sucks.
That's
Feels
why you
good
do
when you're
it.
done. Feels
Yeah.
good when you're done, dude. Like it's the shittiest thing I do all day long. Like, and I wake up at fucking 4:45 in the morning and I go to the gym and then I like get strangled in the evenings, okay? And taking a cold shower is the worst fucking thing that happens to me in my day.
Well, I go run the hills in the fucking freezing cold wind, and I've been doing that for years because it's fucking hard. That's the only reason why. You just do it because it's hard. Makes you
But
mentally tough.
you have that scarf to keep you warm, so I imagine it's not
This is
too cold.
well, one thing you and I've never discussed is probably my strong scarf game. I've got a lot of scarves.
Are you
So
proud of that?
yeah, a little,
I,
a little
you're
bit.
not proud of it if you have to like question it.
Oh yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. I'll take it. Yeah, I'm proud of it. Um, okay, so what's next? Oh, Lloyd Austin had cancer and So we didn't have a Secretary of Defense for like a month.
Good.
Apparently we don't need one. That's
It's
what it
like I
told me.
fucking said to you. If you can disappear from your job for a few days, and we're not talking like vacation, if you just flat out disappear and nobody even notices, nobody asks where you are, your job shouldn't exist. Especially when it comes to the government. Just fucking nix it, cut it out, get rid of it, because it's pointless. Absolutely pointless. And this is the Secretary of Defense, right? So
I think he should be fired or he should step down. I don't think either of those are going to happen because that's not how anything works now. I mean, this
why should he
administration
be
won't fire
fired?
any.
So you and I are actually a little bit at odds here on this, right? Because his health information should be protected. It doesn't matter if his
Oh yeah,
employer is the federal
go ahead,
government.
Brad. Go
We
ahead.
are completely at odds about this. You think that they should know everything about him, even medically, and the law says you're wrong. So I'm clearly in the right here because they passed the law for it.
It doesn't matter. He's like the third most powerful person in the like bureaucracy in our country.
It does matter. See, because you tried to paint me in a light where
it was so easy to do. You did it.
I'm pro government.
I gave you your
I'm
rope.
defending a government employee. No, you just tried to act like an idiot. Because if you actually look at it, it's anti-government because I'm protecting the employee against the government. He just happens to work for the government. Okay, but if he worked in any other sector, you wouldn't say that. The government is just a business. Okay.
I don't care about anybody else in the federal government. He's the one guy who I think you probably should disclose this shit to. We know it now. Why didn't we know it then? We know it now.
Because it's none of your fucking business, Aaron. That is the libertarian principle. It's none of your fucking business.
Do you think if Joe Biden had prostate cancer, you should know about it as a voter? No, you don't think so?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. I wouldn't have voted for him regardless. So it's a moot point, really.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, the truth is, it kind of does matter. It actually does. So just so you know,
I don't think it does.
It absolutely does.
If he had prostate cancer, he's going to get the best care he can possibly get. You know why? Because he's the fucking president of the United States.
I use that as an example. I could think of anything worse. Like, what if he's got like a
the only reason I
kill him in 5 months?
The only reason I want to know is for sure we don't want fucking President Kamala Harris. So, like, that's why I want to know. Would I be a little upset?
That is a reason,
sure,
yes.
But like, again, I wasn't going to vote for Joe Biden. You know,
I don't care who you're going to vote for.
It doesn't matter if he has prostate cancer because
it does
he's
to me.
fucking old and doesn't belong in office to begin with.
Okay, it matters. You just gave me a good reason why it would matter. You're like, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't need to know about it, except for if Kamala Harris, you know, like, yeah, that's a pretty good reason. That's a pretty good reason.
Reason that it would matter, but I'm not saying I fucking care.
Okay, well, I definitely do care. I'm definitely pissed that this guy lied, and I think he should be fired. I think he should be fired for that. Why don't you try to
subpoena his health records then, Aaron? Oh, wait, you need a fucking judge to do that, don't you? Yeah, because it's, not exactly lawful for you to go and dig up his fucking health records. So you shut the fuck up. Next question.
It's so stupid. You're so like difficult on this one topic.
You shouldn't talk about yourself like that. You're not stupid just because you're wrong. Oh God,
sorry,
what are you doing?
I don't have audio on like one of my headphones. Anyway. All right. What do you want to talk about?
Anything you want. You said you were just going to give me topics. Let's do it. I have nothing to talk about. I've actually been kind of staying a little bit off of like everything. Just kind of like consuming only good entertainment. Watching some hockey, watching some movies and stuff. But I've been kind of staying off the internet.
All right. I'm
on a mission this year, so
I know. Harvard fired. No, they didn't fire her. She stepped down. Claudia Gay stepped down.
Yeah,
but she still works there. She still makes like $500,000 a year as a professor,
which is fucking funny because I would not have resigned. I would be like, you have to severance my ass out of
Oh,
this fucking position. I ain't
you
going
only
nowhere,
I'll
motherfucker.
tell you one reason why she did, because they are feeling it in the pocketbook. People, donors are taking money out of there. And also,
Yeah, but
we
no,
were
but if you're firing me, why is that my problem?
well, they weren't going to fire
It's
her.
right. So you're either going to sit there and collect your fucking paycheck, and now you have no reason to do anything at all
Well, she
because
never did anything
because
ever to begin with.
you're just gonna claim that they fired me for being black or for being a lesbian, so you
Mm.
don't have to do anything, and so you could just sit there and collect a fat paycheck, or they can fire you and pay you severance, and you collect a fat paycheck. It's a win-win situation. Why you would resign is completely fucking stupid.
Well, nobody does that anymore. Not even the president. You know, they just go, "I'm not going anywhere." It's like what?
Oh,
But
sure. Yeah. But I
uh,
mean, at the end of the day, she was a fucking cheater. She was a fucking liar. And
she was a thief.
I have a lot of issues with fucking plagiarism. A lot.
Me too. And I was always under the impression that that was always a bridge too far. You just never did that. And she's the one person who seems to be able to get away with it now.
Dude, when I was in college, I had a group project with another kid. And I was going to handle the presentation stuff because he had like anxiety, right? So he was going to handle all of the writing of the paper. It was like 15 pages or whatever. He forgot to put in parenthetical citations, which is just at the end of like a quote. Basically, you throw in some parentheses and like the author's name. Okay. Then you cite it in your works cited page. You're done. There's your little college lesson on fucking writing. But what what happened is because he forgot to put in the parenthetical citations, the teacher wanted to try and like get me expelled from school for plagiarism. I didn't even
Mm.
write the fucking paper, but because I was part of the team, I got hit with that. So I have big fucking issues with plagiarism and stealing people's shit because it's fucked up. And it's funny because you see the left coming out and defending her, and everyone's like, this is a racial thing. They're firing her because they're racists and like all this other shit. First of all, Harvard is racist. I mean, we saw that. They were racist against Asian people. It was the crux of basically getting affirmative action overturned. And they didn't. She lied about her credentials, basically. So she was like a published author or whatever and all this shit, but it wasn't her own work. So she lied about who she was. She didn't have the credentials really to be the fucking president there. I don't care if she has a PhD because as we saw, nobody gives a shit. PhD is pretty easy to get if you just cheat your way through it and they just let you go. And she fucking deserved to, like, she deserved to be fired. But then I get why Harvard didn't fire her because they'd have to pay her the fat severance. But
Well, they would
I
have
get
to
it.
also just defend. They would be defenestrated for a million different reasons.
It's too
Um,
much fucking from a legal perspective. Like it really is. Like it's not worth their salt. You know, institutions are already having enough trouble getting students and stuff as it is. So they just want to move past this. Like they really do. But Harvard's really been fucked over the last like couple
their
of years.
reputation is fucked now
It's
too.
tarnished. It's absolutely tarnished. I mean, it's supposed to be one of the best Ivy League schools in the country. And then you showed clear racism against Asian people, um, and now this, like, you know, they've had a bad couple of years when it comes to their reputation for sure.
Good, makes me
Fuck
happy. Yeah, fuck them.
stupid Ivy
Uh,
League colleges.
I mean, I no, no, I don't care.
Fuck them. Yeah. Other than
Fuck
fuck them, there's not really much to
'em.
say.
The best part actually was that they had to consider the context of what what genocide means for the Jewish people, and that's how this all started. All she ever had to do was say like, yeah, calling for genocide is bad, and she couldn't do it, and and then and then people were like, well, let's look into her then. Let's just find out what's going. Oh, yeah, you know.
See, that's the whole kind of problem with this situation, right? Is free speech. Definitely believe in that. If you want to say from the river to the sea, fine. Like it really makes no difference to me. But you're also not free from the consequences of what you say. In this case, people were, again, which in my opinion is fine, but they're sitting there asking you like the ethics code basically, and here's where it gets really fucked up. Like, is the ethics, like the school's ethics, do they follow, like, do these chants follow like the school's code of ethics and all this other shit? And they like refuse to answer the question. All of them did. It wasn't just Harvard, it was UPenn. I forget who the third person
MIT.
was. It might have been. Um, but those ethics aren't laws, first of all, so they don't really matter. But also, these universities claim that they kind of formulate these like ethics and clauses and stuff in their, I don't know, school rules or charters or laws or whatever,
Hmm.
to kind of be based off of the Constitution. So
Yeah.
so for you to sit here and claim, that these are like bad words, it's not even like a matter of condemning them. Like, is it against your policies? Well, if our policies are congruent with the Constitution, constitutionally, you should be allowed to say from the river to the sea, regardless.
That's the
There's
problem. They're not. Like, you can't misgender anybody at Harvard. Like, that's not a thing you can
right,
do.
right. So
So,
that's definitely a lie that
yeah.
they're not congruent with the Constitution. So that was, I guess, a big actual takeaway from me, is these universities are going to sit here and try and claim that, but that's not actually true.
It's another way that COVID lifted the veil on a lot of shit, because people were sitting there looking at what their kids were being taught during the day, and they were like, "What the fuck is this? What's happening here?" And
COVID
then,
was so good for us on certain levels. Like,
yeah,
I don't
like
care what
this
anybody says
this whole
about
thing
all
too.
of it, but like, it's really put things to a different light and kind
You
of
see what they
showed
were
people
hiding. Yeah.
exactly forever that people just wouldn't even like focus on. But because we weren't physically at work and everybody kind of had time, they started focusing more on like some of this political shit, which is why this year's going to be, and kind of is, a little bit crazy from a political perspective, because everybody went from kind of not paying attention to now they're paying attention. And I think it's going to make things a little bit weird this year.
Yeah, I'm politically it's crazy, man. I gotta tell you, like, I was looking at the polling, and you got Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. They're the only two left standing now, basically. Um,
So
and
Vivek has not dropped out of the race, though, from what
no,
I've
but
seen, right?
no, he stopped spending money, and he let people go. So I guess he's just gonna, I don't know, waddle his little bobbly head ass off into the sunset now. But those two are there, and then that primary is gonna happen pretty soon. I think it's a couple weeks away. The
I
first
don't.
one.
I think soon. Like, that's coming up
Yeah,
pretty soon, which is
that's pretty
the
soon.
big benchmark. So did you see? Obviously, newsflash: Chris Christie dropped out of the race, but he also was caught on a hot mic saying that Nikki Haley is going to get crushed and she's never going to win, and that just to get to where they're at now, she spent like 67 million, and Chris Christie's like, I spent 12 million dollars, like, I'm good. She had to spend so much money just to get to where I am. He was like, she's already still losing like 20 some percent in the polls, so she's fucked.
That's the well. He isn't. That's how I don't believe he's like he's not the barometer for good politics to begin with.
No, he's a
Like, what
fucking
what
fat pig.
what makes him
He,
the expert on
he
it?
was he was like, people are doing this for titles. I'm not doing this for titles. I have enough titles to my name. And then he named like the two things he's ever done in his life. And then he was like, I'm a father, a brother, a cousin. Like,
Yeah, he
you
he
don't
wants to
have
be
the
on
title,
TV.
dude. You were the fucking
He
governor. That's it. Shut
the,
up.
this is the
Go
part where
away.
he's like, I'm gonna go be an analyst on ABC News. I mean, that's what he wants. That's what it was always
Well,
about.
yeah, those are the high-paying gigs. Like, he's not in it to win the race. And let's be clear here. like people really love to say these days, Donald Trump was never not going to be the nominee. The only way he's not going to be the nominee is like if he dies. There's no laws against running for president if you're in prison, so he can run from prison. um, we've seen him get taken off of 2 ballots so far, I believe in Maine and Colorado, but that's going to the Supreme Court.
They'll
So
hear that in about a month, I think.
I think that's probably the biggest piece of news, quite honestly. Like people are
That is
sleeping on that
bad.
because
Yeah.
that's a big thing. They're being asked to interpret quite literally an amendment of the Constitution. So, are they going to take it literally? Are they not? Um, you know, the definition of insurrection, has that been met or has it not been met?
He hasn't
Um,
been convicted of it regardless.
yeah, but it doesn't necessarily require a conviction. It just requires that you've engaged just in an insurrection.
Let me
So,
ask you something. That was written for specifically because of the Civil War. Do
sure.
you think that should be applicable to what happened on January 6th?
I don't know. Like, so here's the thing. If you look at things like affirmative action that were taken up by the Supreme Court, and they basically changed their tune on affirmative action for right or wrong, it does not matter. But in this day and age, do we need something like affirmative action? I would say no. I believe that you could take down a Harvard, you could take down a university, you could take down a corporation by social media campaigns against them, things like that. We've seen it. We've seen companies get boosted because of social media, with Reddit and the whole like GameStop and AMC thing. So we've seen it in kind of in both directions, and um, I really truly wonder how they see this, right? Because like you said, that law was written so long ago. Does it still hold water today? Does an insurrection look different today than it did during the Civil War? I think that's really a big question that we have to ask.
I don't know that we have to ask it at all, except for they have been like creatively thinking of ways to do this for so long. They've been trying to get them for so long. I didn't even consider that amendment in the Constitution. I don't
I
think
don't
anybody
think
did.
anybody did. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
did. And
And then all of
I
a sudden we're like
you
now having the
you're
conversation.
right on that. But now the conversation is a lot bigger than just Donald Trump. This is the
Oh,
entire
yeah.
this is like a huge part of the Constitution at stake. Um, and I think that's going to be the most interesting piece of political news to come out this year, hands down. Um,
Well, I don't fucking like the guy. I hope he loses. I don't give a shit. I hate them both. I hate everybody. But man, you're taking a guy off the ballot who I got called on X. Somebody called me a centrist, a nihilist centrist
oh,
because be,
accurate as fuck.
yeah, because I
Accurate as
was
fuck.
I mean, principled, thinking about this, I'm thinking two things. One, you do this, and they're going to do it to your side too.
Yep,
And then the second thing is, he was not, he had the opportunity to be convicted, impeached, whatever you want to call it, and Mitch McConnell didn't do it. Like,
twice,
I'm sorry, yeah,
twice.
So Mitch McConnell's to blame here. If you want to blame somebody, blame him, not me. I'm just the nihilist centrist. But
Especially now that Mitch McConnell's coming out against Donald Trump, for the most part, from what it sounds like. So you're right. Mitch McConnell should have just impeached him the second time and actually removed him from office. He probably could have got the votes for it, but they didn't do it. And now we're here having, um, I would actually call this a political crisis.
I should
This
call it a
is
constitutional crisis, actually.
Yeah,
Even
yeah, definitely a constitutional crisis. This is way bigger than the election coming up, right? Because we all know what we're going to get. We're going to get fucking Joe Biden. We're going to get Donald Trump. It just is what it is. Um, but this is a big fucking deal. We're talking about 150 plus years of constitutional amendment like at stake here. So is this something that I don't know, do you have to amend the Constitution, which requires 2/3 ratification, in order to redefine this law? Like, could we see that in our lifetime? Wouldn't that be fucking cool? Wouldn't that
It
be
would be
cool?
cool. Yeah,
Like,
it
to
it
take it
won't
from God here,
happen,
are
but
you not entertained? Like,
that would
that's
be really
that's what we're
interesting.
looking at here, because who writes it? Like, what the fuck does that look like? I don't know. Because if Congress writes it, I'm not thrilled. Let's be honest. I fucking hate
Well,
them.
I mean, they obviously would. No, it is interesting in that sense. Like from a like technical perspective, it's like how would that what would that look like? It is fun to think about. We're gonna see a lot of firsts, actually. Like, first of all, like, okay, you're saving democracy, and the only way to do that is by removing people's ability to vote for their candidate of choice. Like, that's really
Right.
crazy.
Like, so you're subverting democracy. So a big thing that the left is doing is trying to paint this entire thing, like you just said, is that this is a fight for democracy. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for dictatorship, because as he's been saying, like, I'll only be a dictator on day one, and so on
Which
and
is a
so
horrible
forth,
thing to
right?
say. You should
Oh yeah,
never
it's
say
fucking
that.
stupid. Like, he seems like he's completely going off the rails, which is fine. I don't care. But I think everything's starting to get to him. But I, this is way bigger. Like, this is absolutely way bigger than anything that we've seen before, in my opinion. Like, it just has to be. We're getting what we're getting, but you know, back to like Democrats subverting democracy. Like, you actively aren't having primaries because you don't want your candidate primaried.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
So, who is actually subverting democracy here? The primaries are part of our democracy, and you are completely doing away with that because you are trying to make sure that Robert Kennedy Jr. can't be on the ballot for a Democrat. So he's going to run independent. And dude, he's polling in like the 20 percentiles. Like, he could.
I would be worried, yeah, if I was them.
Everybody's really kind of likening this whole thing to like Ross Perot. Um,
Ross
and
Perot,
what happened in that
yeah,
situation.
that was an earthquake. What happened there? And you know, H.W. Bush wasn't like in the strongest position, and Clinton was actually like a very good politician. But Perot was basically why Clinton won.
Do we see that again? Are we gonna? So I think
Yeah,
Robert
sure, why
Kennedy.
not?
Well, I think
Everything.
RFK Jr. Actually takes more from Trump than Biden. I think
I
was like
agree with you. Yeah.
I think statistically that was bared out. So, um, is he part of the fucking psyop to take votes away from Donald Trump?
I don't.
Wanna nah. This is a CIA election, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
another
watched
thing.
the
Oh, go
coolest
ahead.
movie today. It was from 2020, and it was Trump versus the Illuminati. It was an animated film.
Oh, we're gonna do this.
We're doing this. This is an animated film about a Chinese clone of Donald Trump. I don't mean the clone was Chinese. I mean that he was made in a lab by Chinese lab workers, and his body was infused with AI, and he was immortal. He's like living on Mars, and he like escaped Earth during the basically a nuclear war that Donald Trump, the original, started. And he meets like Van Helsing and deals with a bunch of other shit. A fucking Sasquatch like that lives on Mars. Wildest fucking cartoon I've ever seen in my life. Way better than Mario, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Thanks for the episode title. I didn't have one in mind, but now Chinese Illuminati. Okay.
So
How,
stupid. Don't
what do
watch it,
you?
please God.
Oh no, no, I'm not doing that. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting was that there might also be the conventions, and should either candidate not be able to perform, like let's say they get the death or something, there could be like a convention where they have to like actually vote for somebody to be the party, the ticket, to vote for somebody for the ticket, like in the old days.
Right, but so in that case, and I actually am asking this from a situation I don't know or understand. Who gets to vote? Like, how many do you get, like the electors, like you do with the electoral college and stuff,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is that
it's
what it is?
like that.
Because in certain states you have like faithless electors and faithful electors and stuff like that. It,
So you get delegates, and those delegates are in your pocket, right? So why it matters for Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis to win or come in second place in some of these states is that they get a handful of delegates in their back pocket, and that matters. It does. And so yeah, you would go to the convention. Biden wouldn't be there, so he'd have his delegates, and then they have to go to somebody else, and then they'd have to do that, which I think would be kind of interesting. It would be bad, I think, for them,
oh,
but
yeah. To be honest, I don't think that a constitutional convention or anything like that is a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, especially in this instance, right? Um, I think you kind of have to leave this alone. You're setting a poor precedent, especially with as politicized as everything is these days. It's only going to go one way. You're going to have your red versus blue states, like, because we are so deep into that. And it's like the purple states, again, are going to decide this. You know, Pennsylvania is polling more towards like Donald Trump and shit like
that's
that this
crazy,
year.
dude.
So then do you have to put him back on the ballot because you lost this constitutional convention? Um,
He'll be, I guarantee you the Supreme Court will overturn it. If it's not all nine of them, that'll be a huge problem too. That issue, you remove him from the ballot, the Supreme Court reviews it. If all nine justices say that's wrong, that's probably a good thing. If like
I
two of them
oh
say it's not,
I'm
then
with
they're gonna
you,
say the court's illegitimate, and
dude.
that's bad.
What if we get like a 5-4 vote?
Yeah, that's terrible. That's so bad because then they're just gonna go, "Oh my god, this court is illegitimate, and they want this guy on the ballot, and this is a threat to the blah blah blah," and
And
then you just
and they
follow it to its
already
natural
say that
conclusion.
that court
Yeah,
is
of course they
illegitimate.
do. We
And
got to stack it.
I would bet. Oh, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If
I
a
think that's by design.
I It could be. It could very well be in the Democrats' plan. You know how the Democrats are constantly saying, like, oh, Republicans have been planning for 30 years to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, which is
Like,
true.
I guess.
It's more like
But
50, but yeah,
like, you just kind of run into that same situation. Like, Democrats have been waiting for 30 years to pack the court, and like now
yeah.
you're giving them ammo to do so. I think that I truly do feel this way. This could be the biggest crisis of this year for sure, and one of the top 5 biggest crises of our lifetime if they choose to have a constitutional convention to amend the 14th Amendment.
Uh, then you have the vote in November, and if that also doesn't go the way one side wants, it's going to be very bad. But I don't know how that will look. Like the Democrats basically did the pussy hat march for like 3 years, and it was like, okay, good for you guys. Way to go. You're showing him up. Um you could see that getting a little more radical if Trump were to like retake office. And then there's the question, like, what happens when he's done with his second term? Like
Dude,
they've asked him before.
so if Trump wins, do you think the Democrats will insurrect slash not insurrect the Capitol?
Yeah,
I do as well. I
yeah, absolutely.
I do. I firmly believe that they're gonna be like, well, if they can do it, we can do it, and
Yeah,
you
I
know,
told I told Republicans that I knew, they were like, hey, you know what? Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a riot. They did it all summer. Why did the January 6th people, like, they just rioted? So what? I was like, what's happening is you're making it impossible for me to defend your position because they're gonna do it to you, and then you're
right?
not gonna like it either.
Yep,
Like you're just putting, yeah,
yep.
and so yeah, that'll
See,
happen.
and this is the part of being a centrist. It's actually kind of funny because I I would not say that January 6th was an insurrection necessarily. I understand why they were there. I get it. I was trying to like get through the 4-hour debate that
Oh
Alex
God,
Jones and Glenn Greenwald had with like the Krasensteins and some other, I don't know,
Destiny.
yeah, whatever. And trying to get through that shit, but you're just asking for it to come back. Like, we saw how much rioting over the years because of Black Lives Matter and what's the other one, Antifa.
Well,
That
Antifa's
was
different,
the
but
whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, but still, like, Antifa was out
that was
there
a crazy year, dude.
fucking like burning buildings and shit. Remember when Donald Trump took office at his inauguration?
There was
People
a
were like
car on fire.
car bombing. Yeah, they were like, burning cars. They were burning they broke all the windows of like a Starbucks or whatever. I mean, we see this kind of shit. It doesn't really matter where it takes place. But I think you're right. Like, if you don't classify January 6th as an insurrection, you're going to see the same shit happen. And who knows? It could be worse.
I mean, really, we'll just do this forever, and then I have to ask the question, like, okay, so he wins a second term, and then what? Does he give up power, or does he want to? Like, if you ask him that question, I'm not sure if anybody actually has or even thought about it. Like, does he just go like, no, I'll just stay? It's like, what? No. And or if he loses, he's just gonna run again in like 2028. Like, that's how batshit everything is.
So the thing is, in this country, especially, Donald Trump would have to completely control the military. I know everyone says you're the chief of staff or whatever, the head chief, and like you control the military, but that's not true. Okay. People have their own political beliefs and stuff. So if it came down to simply using, means on citizens that, from the military in order for Donald Trump to keep power, does the military follow through with that? Because in order to have a dictatorship, you need to have a strong military that
That's
backs
the
that
only way to do it.
dictatorship.
Yeah,
Do you have that in this country? I don't think you do.
I don't think you do
Believe it or
either.
not, I believe that the overwhelming majority of military people are centrists. Sure,
They
you have your
they're
Trump guys.
patriots. Yeah.
There are guys who rejoined the military because Trump was going after ISIS, and they wanted to do that. They really believed in that. Sure, but that does not mean that they believe in him as an ideal. Okay, this country was technically founded on an insurrection overthrowing a king. Okay, that's just what it is. Um, People look down on that. Like, we do shit like this all the time to other countries. Okay, we fund insurrections. They call them coups, but they're really kind of the same thing. Um, we fund that shit all the time. And like, I had this conversation with my mom. She was like, "It's embarrassing," and all this other stuff. And I said, "Why?" I said, "We
What's
do it
embarrassing?
to other like January 6th."
Oh,
So she's like, "It's embarrassing like that even happened." I said, "Why?" I said, "We do it in other countries all the time. All the time. For anybody to think that something like that cannot happen here ever is fucking stupid. Because historically, it's just going to happen. Empires fall all the time. Like, I think we're in year 247 out of like 250. They estimate
yeah.
something like every 250 years the empire will fall, a historic average. So who knows? Like, we'll fucking see. But does anybody really believe in your heart that the people who were down in the Capitol could have taken over the entire country? Fuck
No,
no. There's a
no.
reason why people will not invade the United States. It's too fucking big. You cannot control everything. We have military bases fucking everywhere in our own country. You cannot take out everything. So you don't have everything. You don't have the capacity. You don't have the manpower for this. So if anybody actually believes that, they're fucking sad and they don't know shit.
Well said.
So
I'm looking at the news right now. Looks like we're launching airstrikes against the Houthis. I don't know what took so long, but they've been
it's not going to
today. They were
stop.
launching rockets again.
It's not going to stop them.
I don't think so, but you got to do something. You can't just like they shut down ship travel through that strait. That's you can't sustain that.
Well,
You have to fight back.
no, you do have to fight back, and it's kind of funny because I was reading this article about kind of like everything that's happening there, and like they've been doing this for quite a while, and the US just like hasn't really done anything about it. It's because they're not going to stop, so it kind of doesn't matter. Like
You can't have
they've been doing this
if
forever. They're backed
I
by
know.
Iran.
Well, that's the main problem with the whole thing is that Biden is beholden to China and Iran, and I don't know why they are so obsessed with appeasing Iran. I'm just like it's crazy.
So so going back quite a ways, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, likely with the Israel Hamas war. We did talk about Iran getting paid those billions of dollars from the U.S. government. Well, not paid necessarily, but their funds unfrozen.
Unfrozen.
So this article came out, Fox Business, saying Iran accessed billions in recently unfrozen funds as Israel Hamas war rages.
Really?
So
Wow.
it's
Well, that's
talking
not good.
about different transactions, like $10 billion of revenue for selling electricity to Iraq and like all this other stuff. And that there's been these multiple transactions because the US is actually monitoring said transactions. And basically what is kind of like happening here is like nothing's actually being transparent. They're not exactly sure what this money's been spent on. Iran is supposed to be handing over money, but the national security spokesman John Kirby said that the money is supposed to go to approved vendors that purchase food, water, medicine, agricultural products, and then ship those into Iran for the benefit of Iranian people. But there has been some issues that have been brought up by analysts, and they're saying like what we've seen is relieving sanctions, relaxing pressure on Iran leads to more illicit activity, leads to more terrorism, more missile proliferation, which they have been sending missiles to Lebanon and to Houthis, and of course advances in their nuclear program. So it appears that, as everybody would say, that money's only for humanitarian aid. Sure, they can spend it on that, but it frees up billions of dollars from other funds that were going to those things to pay for terrorism. That's what
Exactly.
I said from the fucking beginning. Okay. And that's pretty much what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's bad.
Well, there's
It's
talks
really
about
bad.
apparently Israel wants to be in a direct conflict with Iran.
Oh, they are in a direct conflict. Iran is in a direct conflict with Israel. If you want to hear it from my perspective, but I mean,
Technically, it's a proxy war because Hamas and uh,
yeah,
Hezbollah are just funded by Iran, but they're not
I
Iranian
understand. Yeah, I understand your point. I just
culturally.
to me, it's funny
I
because
actually agree with you. Yeah, that's my point, but I do agree with you that it's pretty much a direct war, and they're just
like
saying it's
Iran's basic basic game plan is to eliminate Israel. That's what they want to do, and Israel can't allow them to get a nuclear weapon because they'll use it against Israel.
100%.
And
I agree with that. Yeah,
yeah, and Israel's not going to let that happen. So
right.
that's
But we're
that's why it's
seeing
become
we're
complicated.
seeing an issue here because Israel is under investigation by the ICJ or IJC or something like that. It's a criminal court, It's
Oh,
like an
this is
international crime
absurd.
thing. So
Yeah,
they're
this is all it's all anti-Semitic bullshit. It's literally led by Jeremy Corbyn. He left the UK to go to the Hague to do this thing.
well, it's actually led. South Africa is the one that brought up
Yeah,
the
South Africa should
article
be the one who
for it.
tells us what
Right, the
they're the
kings of
ones to talk.
apartheid. So they're talking about apartheid here, and they were the kings of apartheid for a long time.
It's just
But they're
ridiculous.
they're bringing this up. But the reason why this has big impact, I know you think it's ridiculous and everything, but it's not completely unfounded. Some of the things that they're doing kind of toe a line that it appears a lot of countries in the world are not behind the U.S. when it comes to funding Israel in the way that it is.
I I know what you're
And
saying. If I was those, I would tell them to fuck off. I
but and
would.
so here's why it matters, because if the ICJ or whatever finds that this has been a genocide, essentially, they are going to try and force a ceasefire.
There's not going to be a ceasefire unless Hamas releases the hostages and gives up.
Right. So
That's it.
so the thing is that the U.S. supports this international crime, whatever. Okay,
Do we?
they're
Is that a
behind it.
thing?
Yes,
Ah,
100%. They're part of it. And if it is deemed by them that Israel is committing a genocide, the U.S. is extremely complicit in that, because we are giving them money and we're giving them weapons, in which they're using to quote unquote genocide the Palestinians. So that's why it matters. Like I said, other countries are kind of getting behind this and calling for ceasefires and stuff as well. So, one of the issues will be if they are found to have been committing genocide, the U.S. is going to look really fucking bad, and
I
that's
don't
just
know that they'll look really
more
bad.
Joe
I understand
Biden,
your
in my
point.
opinion.
Well, I don't care about him, but look, that word genocide, it really doesn't mean anything, especially in this context. If they wanted to genocide the Palestinians, they could have done it in a week. I mean, they could have just wiped them out.
Yeah, but
It's quite the opposite of a
I
genocide.
don't know, dude, because even listening to like Breaking Points, they were talking about how a lot of the uh the generals and stuff in the US military are against what Joe Biden is pushing forward, um
Well,
with
Kristen Ball's
completely.
an anti-Semite bitch, actually, so it doesn't matter what she says.
I don't even
Crystal
think it was
Ball.
her talking about it.
Okay, well, anything she says is illegitimate in my opinion. But if it was Sagar, then fine, I'll hear it out. Sorry, just don't like her at all. She's been really bad on this whole issue.
Well, that's fine, and I understand where people stand on this whole thing. It's obviously a very complicated situation, but as far as I know, and
But you
I
know
don't
what?
care what you think about Crystal necessarily, they do pose a very, centrist view on things. They do call out both sides, so I
Oh, but she's
understand.
a radical on. I mean, if you're
I
supporting like
I agree
Hamas,
with
you're a
you.
radical.
No, I agree with you. But just because you support Palestinians doesn't mean you support Hamas, and you do tend to blur that distinction.
I've over time I've seen them actually have more in common than I thought. I mean, the UNRWA or whatever had like weapon ammunition stores in like every single school they had. Um, the Palestinians, every single time they launch these rockets out across the border, like even today, even right now, there's Palestinian video, and they're all saying like this is awesome. They're cheering it on. I don't know, man. I think the Palestinians would re-elect Hamas today if you let them have that
It's
vote.
possible. It's possible, and you know, I think another factor that comes into play here is um, like more UN aid workers have died in this war than any previous war ever.
Yeah, but
So, like, since the UN's existence. So,
but
dude,
UN aid
but the
workers is
UN,
like
dude, the UN has to come out and say something about it, because you're actively killing their employees. So they actually
okay.
have to come out and be against what Israel's doing, because they're killing UN aid workers.
You could
So
be a UN aid worker and be like a Hamas supporter.
sure. Just
They
like you can
are.
be
I
a
mean, that's
journalist and you can be in Hamas, like we've seen that. So
yeah. We've
I'm
seen a
again,
journalist go over
I
the border on October
in
7th
this
with a
situation,
grenade.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. Okay, but what I'm saying is that a lot of this can culminate up to like how much power and influence is from the UN to that ICJ. Like I don't know.
To me, it's a paper tiger, but I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, I like to talk to you about this kind of stuff. But Israel just cannot. They just have to do it no matter what, and there's just going to be people who say no, and they get cold feet over time. I mean, Israel always. They're the only country in the world that have a ticking clock, and they have to stop after a certain amount of time. After every single one of these, they have 64 days. They have 2 months. They have 4 months. They have like
You're right. Ukraine didn't have a ticking clock until the whole Israel thing happened, and now we're funding that instead. So,
yeah, they're
well,
the only country in the
I guess we're
world.
technically funding both. The Democrats just recently tried to call out Republicans for not voting for funding the border, but it's because they were tying it to funding for Ukraine and Israel, and they're like, no, we're not doing that.
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about the border. I would like to bring that up again though sometime because
Certainly.
that whole thing is crazy, dude. Like they're letting in like like a stadium of people every single day.
Yeah, it was. I thought I saw that it was basically like small cities are getting
Yeah,
brought in like every single day.
the numbers are crazy. Actually, I actually just read today. I was going to send it to you, but I forgot to. Texas took over federal property at Eagle Pass today. I don't
Ooh,
know if you. I don't know
Brad
what that.
likes that.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Brad
The
likes
way
that. Definitely.
Texas is. They, Greg Abbott has been like people hate him for doing this. I think it's very savvy though, very intelligent. You know, you send them on buses. Okay, then the mayor of New York is like, we can't take them anymore. So we're gonna start taking, we're gonna find the bus companies. Like, okay, we'll send them to New Jersey and put them on the train. We'll send them by plane. You're gonna
That's
confiscate planes?
beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely beautiful. Strategically, chef's kiss.
yeah.
Yeah. Fuck your
And
regulation.
then and then they kicked all these kids because in New York, kids come dead last. We know that from COVID. They kicked all those kids out of that school to hold the migrants there. And then when people were reporting on it, they're like, they're sending these migrants from Texas. It's like, no, these migrants aren't from Texas. These migrants came from somewhere else. They ended up in Texas, and Texas can't do it on its own. And
Dude,
I'm not,
I
I'm pro
I saw an
immigration, but
article.
man,
I saw an article that it was like it was a very fear-driven article. It was like when they're done with schools, they're going to be asking you to put them in your homes. They're going to like take your homes
well,
so that
it
they
was
can
a
house
doom thing,
migrants.
but no, a city councilwoman in New York
It's
said,
great.
if you can open your homes, please do
Oh
to
yeah,
help out.
they've already been asking, but
Yeah. Well, it's
what
like it's not that far fetched. I mean, what do you own in New York? You're in a building or you're part of like you're a tenant. Like what do you own in New York exactly?
I see. I like to think that Twitter isn't actually like people's real thoughts. Everyone's just like bots or influencers.
Yeah.
Um, so I try not to like read too much into what you see on Twitter, but some of these people commenting were like, Texas should be ashamed of doing this, and like you should be able to handle all of this. And it's like, shut the fuck up. You don't understand what it's like working or living in a border state like that. You don't understand how complicated the situation is. Shut the fuck up and take your migrant because they're
It
gonna
is
just
so
start
easy.
handing them out like at like fucking candy. They're like, you get a migrant. Oprah's just gonna be, you get one, you get one, you get one,
Well,
and then they're
it's
gonna be living
brilliant
in
too
your
because
house and taking your
the
jobs.
oh sure the sanctuary cities for so long they were so much better than you and I. Like they were better than us because they were sanctuary cities. And then they finally it couldn't have been any better. They finally had to be sanctuary and they can't do it. They cannot do it. Like
Nope.
20% of like Chicago's budget is going to this right now. And it's
Dude,
like it's in the laws.
what did I just send to you the other day? Chicago, their mayor wanted to take federal COVID funds for the city and use them for migrants without city council approval. He wanted to completely bypass them. So you want to talk about fucking ending democracy? Like, you're not even like, part of your job as city council is to pass a budget and like, you know, allocate funds and shit like that. Now the mayor wants to go around you to fucking support illegal migrants.
The best part of all of this is that the Democratic convention is in Chicago this summer.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bunch of migrants. That's
Go
what it
read
is.
or other something else, go read about the Democratic convention in like 1968. There was Vietnam protests, and there were people, there was riots outside and people getting hurt and shot. Paul Newman was at this one, and his life, he was under duress. Like, they were all locked inside the convention center because everybody was going batshit crazy out there. It's probably gonna happen again this year. It's gonna be something.
I think the funniest part of all of this is you and I both are actually pro-immigration. It's like we have the most.
I just don't want. I just can't.
It's really funny.
I just sit back and I go, yeah, I was pro-immigration. I'm sitting there going, you can't let an entire small city in every single day.
No,
like,
I'm pro-immigration, but you can't call yourself a sanctuary city if you're not going to be an actual sanctuary for migrants. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
great job, New York.
You're literally virtue signaling that you take care of migrants and all this other shit, and now we're seeing that you actually can't.
Yeah, and they have to pay for it because it's in the law that they have to take care of them. So they will kick a New York citizen out of whatever to put a migrant in, and
they're gonna increase taxes by like fucking 20%, and then everyone's gonna fucking leave, and they'll be left with rats and migrants. And I'm not saying migrants are rats, okay? Let's not get it twisted.
No, it's just like there was a mass looting had to happen in New York like a couple days ago. It was a bunch of migrants did it. Which, by the way, I'm surprised more of that doesn't happen. It happens here in California all the time. Like 20 people will just like storm a store and like rob it. But
I saw a thing the other day. It was like, how am I supposed to steal stuff and like stay out of prison with inflation so high? How am I supposed to keep it under $1,000?
Yeah. I mean, our laws are, well, we don't have to do that, but yeah, it's it's there's like 99% of the migrants could be like just people trying to get a better life, and I guarantee you that's the case. It's that 1% that's like, I came from China, or like, I'm a terrorist on the watch list. And it's like, man, like, you can't let like 100 potential terrorists in amongst a group of people. And also, by the way, I love the environmentalists are absolutely silent on this. There is now like a trail of garbage going from the Texas border all the way south. Like, people are just leaving their shit on the trek here, and it's just like
climate
plastic.
Change activists won't like that.
Yeah, it's plastic, it's clothes, it's garbage, and it's just like a straight tunnel of shit. Oh my god.
It's just funny because, like, obviously, if you're seeking asylum, I get it. But where you should ask yourself, and I think we can probably almost wrap this up here, is, yeah, you're seeking asylum, but why are you seeking asylum? Is it because the CIA has been funding cartels and shit in Mexico for so long that now they run Mexico, and that's why you're trying to get the fuck out? So
I don't think anybody's coming from Mexico.
If you're a migrant and you're listening to this, because as we all know, we're in 16 different countries now. That's right. Shout out to those countries. If you're in any of the southern countries and you're trying to seek asylum here, ask yourself, what has the U.S. government done to fuck up your country? Ask yourself that.
Boom. I have nothing to add.
That was a fun one, buddy.
Yeah. On that note, I guess we'll bid our audience adieu until next time.
See ya.
Bye.